Welcome to Game Fondue Reviews. In this video, we're going to take a look at Hanabi. And Hanabi players are working together to try to build the best fireworks display they can. Let's jump right in with the description of the rules, see a few example turns being played, then I'll be back for some closing remarks. This is Hanabi, set up for a 4-player game. First thing you have to do to set it up is decide how many colors you're going to use. We're just using the 5 basic colors, but it also comes with this 6th rainbow color that makes the game a little bit more difficult. Other than that, you just lay out the 8 blue tokens and stack the fuse markers so the longest fuse is on top and the explosion's on the bottom. And depending on the number of players, you deal each player a hand of a different number of cards. In a 2 or 3 player game, they're going to get hands of 5 cards, but in a 3 or 4 player game, they're going to get hands of 4 cards. Really important in this game is you cannot look at your own cards. That's why they're all face up here. You actually have to hold out your cards so the other players can see them, but you cannot. You can never look at your cards at any time during this game, and that's what makes it unique. On a player's turn, they perform one action and then play proceeds clockwise. There are 3 possible actions, which are give information, discard a card, or play a card. The game is lost if the explosion is ever revealed in the fuse stack, and the game is immediately won in a legendary victory if all the fireworks are ever completed. More typically, the game end is triggered when the last card of the deck is drawn. So let's go through those actions. The first is giving information, and to give information, you have to discard 1 blue token from the middle of the floor. If there's no blue tokens left, you cannot take this action. You give one teammate 1 piece of information about their hand. It can be either related to color or the numbers they're holding. To do that, you point to all cards of one type and you declare what they are. For example, a player could point to these 2 cards in this player's hand and say both of these are 3s, and you have to give complete information, so you couldn't just say this is a 3 or this is a 3. If you point out 3s, it have to be all of them. You can also do color, so for instance, these 2 cards are red would be an acceptable clue. You can never do 0 cards of something though. It has to be cards that you can point out. The next action is discarding a card. You just declare that you're going to discard a card, take 1 card from your hand and discard it face up. And when you do this, you get 1 blue token back to the center of the table. It can now be used to give information to a player in a later turn. At the end of your turn, you just draw a new card. But remember, don't look at it. Only the other players get to see it. And the last possible action is to play a card. To do that, you declare that you're playing a card and you place it face up in the center of the table. It will either add to a firework or it will not add to a firework. If it begins or adds to a firework, you add it to the play area. So for instance, if this guy played a blue 1, we don't have any blue fireworks yet, so this would add to the blue fireworks set. However, if later another player played a blue 1, there can only be 1 firework of each color, so that would not add to this, and that would be eliminated. Also, all fireworks have to be done in numerical order from 1 to 5, so if a player played on top of this a 3 of blue, unfortunately that would not add either. If you don't add, you're going to take one of these off, and if you ever reveal the explosion, you immediately lose the game. However, if you do make it all the way to 5 of one color, you immediately get a blue token back if there is one that's been discarded, just like you had discarded a card. Also, if you ever complete all fireworks, that is get a 5 in each different color, you immediately win the game in legendary fashion. If you don't win or lose on these extremes though, you do draw another card to end your turn, but remember, don't look at it. As mentioned, the other way the game ends is if the last card of the deck is drawn. When this happens, each player, including the player who drew the last card, takes 1 more turn. At this point, we calculate your score, and there's a score table in the book that shows you how you did, and there it is there. And the way the score is calculated is the highest value in each different line. So for instance, if you had a setup that looked like this, your total would be a 3 in this line and a 1 in this line. So that would be a 4-point total, which of course will not be very strong since there's 5 different colors. Let's get going with this example playthrough. Remember, in the normal game, you cannot look at your own cards, only the other players can see. So we're going to start with this guy, and he decides to give a hint. So he has to pay 1 blue token to do so, and he tells this guy, these 2 cards are 1s. So now it's this guy's turn, and he probably wants to sort these in his hand so that he remembers what they are and he can turn them any type of different way that he'd like. But he knows that these are 1s, so he plays 1 to the center. It's a yellow 1, so that started a new line. Then because they haven't won or lost the game, he draws a new card, so he draws back up. Next, it's this guy's turn. He decides to give a hint as well, and he tells this guy that this card is a 1. So it's this guy's turn, and he plays that, and it starts a new column because it's not a color that we've had before, and then he draws a new card, being careful not to look at it. So for this guy's turn, he still has no idea what's in his hand. He just decides to tell this guy over here that this is a 5. So this guy knows that's a 5 now, and that costs a blue token. And then as normal to be this guy's turn, he knows this is a 1, so he's pretty confident, and he plays it and then draws another card. We're going to jump ahead a little bit in the game so you can see some more complicated situations. Welcome back. It's this guy's turn, so he's going to play this. He knows it's a 5. And then he immediately gets this back because they completed that. But unfortunately, he draws the last card of the deck. So this is going to be the last turn around the table. So then it's this guy's turn, and he knows this is a 3, so he plays that. And then he doesn't get the draw because the deck's out. And then it's this guy's turn. He has no idea what's in his hand, so he lays out this 5. Unfortunately, that 5 doesn't go anywhere because he can't jump right from 3 to 5, so the top one of this is flipped over. But the explosion's not out yet, so that's okay. And then it's this guy's turn, and he also knows he has a 5. But he's not going to try to play it like the last guy because there's nowhere on the board for a 5 to go because there's no 4s out there. There's just 5s and 3s. So he's just going to discard another card. and then he would get one of these back, although that doesn't do anything at this point. And this guy is just going to throw out a card at random. Oh, great, it was a 4, so it actually goes here. So now he was the first person to draw, so now we calculate the score. Their score would be 5, 10, 15, 19, 22. Remember, it's the highest number in each group, and that's a pretty good fireworks display. The rulebook describes it as amazing. They will be talking about it for weeks, but it's not quite that 25 instant win. The big standout in this game is obviously that you can't see your own set of cards. It's quirky, but it works really well in this game, especially because it's cooperative. Because the game's so easy to set up and teach, it gets people into the game really easy. Also, there's that nice element of while you can help new players because you share a lot of the same information, you don't share all the same information, so they have to make some decisions for themselves. It's also important that you limit and agree ahead of time how much table talk you're going to allow, because the struggle of the game and the tenseness of the game is really about not having enough blue tokens to give as many clues as you want. So if you're giving lots of extra clues, it's going to alter the difficulty a little bit. It can also be really frustrating when some people forget clues they were given or take things, very literally. It just depends on the type of person. Some people, when they get a clue, they say, okay, this is a 2 or this is blue. But, there's also the factor of why they were given that particular clue, because you can't give every clue. You just don't have enough blue tokens to do it. But in all cases, this is a game that scales really well. I think it can still stay difficult, at the expert level as you add in the other color and everything like that. So this is one I strongly recommend for a family setting. That's Hanabi.